Pelvic rotation. Yeah, that's the funniest thing in the world. People always get pelvic rotation wrong. I mean, they don't even know what pelvic rotation is. So many people get told, oh, you've got rotated pelvis, but what does it actually mean? Which way is up? Which way is down? If someone's got a pelvic rotation, what are you going to do about it? Which way do you want the pelvis to rotate in order to be back to normal? So many people get these things wrong. And the industry is failing to help people. Ooh, going up in the world. There's an awesome pelvis right there. Actually, we give that pelvis a center of attention. So what is going on with the pelvis, right? They're getting it wrong. Which way is rotated forward and which way is rotated back? We've all heard about torsion in the pelvis. Unfortunately, most of you go to therapists and get told you've got rotation in the pelvis. They're probably getting it wrong, which is the right way round. So how do they decide what is anteriorly rotated and what is posteriorly rotated? Well, the thing is, anatomy, the anatomy books go by the Gray's Anatomy, which hasn't actually been updated in the last 200 years. So we've really got to make advances in microanatomy and microbiology, but they're still running off the same books and the same ideas from 200 years ago, and it's blatantly gone wrong. The way they describe muscles previously to now is just, it's so wrong, it's untrue. So if we have a pelvis, which way should it be rotating? I mean, if you've got a torsion in your pelvis, which so many people go to chiropractors and osteopaths, they get told they've got a rotation in their pelvis, right? But which way is rotated anteriorly and which way is actually rotated posteriorly? And who's to say which is the correct way? And how do you determine which is the correct way? Severe pain have passing food stool after jump from a 2-story building. I mean, look, to be honest, I'm not to talk to someone about things like that. I'd have to actually treat you myself. I'd have to put you on my treatment table. I mean, you can go look at some of my shorts. I had a new client come in the other day. She's had 2 knee replacements. She's getting these pins and needles, a horrible burning pain. After 1 treatment, I'm relieving her problems. She sent me a text message, and that's on one of my shorts. The most important thing to understand when coming to treat the human body is that the anatomy these days is wrong. The functional anatomy and the functional description of what the human body actually does is so far off these days, and people aren't getting better. We're trying to put technology into something that really, instead of trying to think our way out of it, we need to look at the human body and ask ourselves what's really going on. And like the anterior rotation thing in the pelvis, I mean,
Everyone's trying to posteriorly rotate their pelvis. You see it all the time. Oh, you know, pull your abs in and rotate back. That's actually the worst thing that you can do. Because if you're sitting on a chair, okay, I have a chair here. If I sit on the chair and I posteriorly rotate, I slouch. So why are you posteriorly rotating your pelvis? We all do it. You want to sit down on a chair, you anteriorly rotate your pelvis, you land on your ischial tuberosities, and then you're sitting nicely upright without even trying. So now when you go into a standing position, suddenly you've got to drop yourself back. Why? Because we don't want our bellies to stick out. It's so wrong, it's untrue. And people are going to all these therapists being told you've got a torsion in the pelvis and they're trying to posteriorly rotate it. Well, who told them that? I mean, they didn't build the human body. So the human body wasn't actually built by anyone alive. So we didn't design it to know how it works. We just look at it and try and interpret it. But when you put little things together like this, that if I want to sit upright on a chair, I have to rotate my body forward, rotate my pelvis forward, so that I'm sitting on what we call the ischial tuberosities, which are these bits here, these parts of the pelvis. We sit on that bit, then the spine is upright. So now when I get up and do something, I've got to do this. But that's just going to slouch me. So we've lost a lot of common sense because we're focusing on the microbiology. Are you for my spine? How much do I cost? I charge £55 per hour. We'll flip back to the second. I can rewind the back of it. That's pretty funny, that. I quite like that. That was quite a good comment. Do a backflip back, front flip back to the second floor, and you'll be fine. I mean, there's also the one thing that I really hate is side bend neck stretching. Anybody who side bend stretches their neck, you're in for a world of pain for the rest of your life. I guarantee. You shouldn't be side bend stretching your neck. Your spine actually is not designed to move that much. Your spine should be relatively stable. I mean, these discs, they're made of cartilage, okay? You know, if we look at the disc, they're actually made of cartilage. They're continuous with the spine. There's no separation between vertebrae and disc. They're all the same thing. They're all part of the same structure. The only difference is that the discs have less density of calcium and therefore they're wobbly. But you shouldn't be twisting your discs. And I'm interested in listening to that. This is listening. That's a joke. Yeah, no, I knew that was a joke. That was good. It's quite funny, actually. But in all seriousness, people like that need to be on my treatment table. I'm not going to diagnose someone from a distance because I don't know what their body feels like. But yeah, your discs are not designed to move, and if you twist them all the time, they're made of cartilage, and if you damage them, they don't repair. So if I put my arm over my head and someone pulls my arm, okay, now I have my triceps to contract, I got my lats to pull back, so my shoulder can protect itself by muscular contraction, but your discs don't have any protection whatsoever. They're there as like a suspension. You know, it's a bit like the spring on a car. The suspension is just there to shock absorb and protect the rest of the car. This is here to shock absorb, and then the muscles in the back of the spine take over and control the joints. So if you're doing movements where you're twisting your spine too much, like having spinal manipulation, you know, they click or they get your neck and click, you're just going to end up with serious pain for the rest of your life. And they'll probably damage your spine for life. And I'm pretty certain of that. I had osteopathic manipulation for years and it damaged my back. And I was studying to be an osteopath at the time. And I'll tell you what, I would never go back to clicking someone's back or working on their spine as much as the osteopaths and chiropractors do. And even the massage therapists, you know, they just go straight in for the spine and they're just damaging people. And unfortunately, people don't know this, which is a real shame. Let's go. before I go on. Oh, thank you so much appreciated. Yeah, check through my some of my shorts and see some of the comments that people sent to me. Have a good day. Thank you very much. You too. Much appreciated. Thank you for joining, and look out for me. I'll keep posting more and more things that will go on about what's going wrong, where how anatomy is getting the human body wrong recently. So I'm actually here for those of you who's still here, I'm actually here in my clinic. So that's what I do day to day. I treat. And this is my clinic room. Give you the little tour. And actually, as it would be, I am actually not that busy because I actually help people. And my clients don't have any pain. So if my clients don't have any pain, I don't have any work. So I need new people in through the door. But yeah, I mean, I've got a busy couple of weeks coming up because I've had some new clients come through the door. But before you know it, they'll be pain-free. And I'll be back in the same spot again. I'll be sitting here twiddling my thumbs, a little bit like my feed is doing now. I use fleece to cover patients. And I treat with a serious, unique approach to therapy. Yeah, I'm very unique in the way I treat. Da 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 da. You're breaking me, da 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 da. So who's that? That was Mason R15. What does that mean? I don't know who that is. So what do you know about spinal rotation? Ever heard of it? Ever wondered which way it should rotate? Ever been to see a chiropractor or an osteopath and you get told you've got spinal rotation? Which way should it rotate? Does anyone actually know? I would put money that they don't actually know which way spine should rotate. That's what I would put money on. And your discs, your spine shouldn't actually move. You know, why would you twist? Seriously, why would you twist your spine? Your discs are not made of any contractile tissue. They're made of cartilage. They're a fibrocartilage. And if you twist them and they crack, they're damaged for life. So which way should you rotate your spine? Should you rotate anteriorly? Should you rotate posteriorly? Well, if you look at my video from earlier, you'll see. If you go back, when I post this as a live, you can go back and have a look. So here I am. This is where I do all my work. I will be posting some videos eventually on the biggest mistakes that we make in the anatomy industry. You've got to look at Gray's Anatomy. Gray's Anatomy says muscles do X. The functional anatomy from 200 years ago, 300 years ago, is still being used today, and it is wrong. You know, these books really need to be rewritten because they're making mistakes. They're making mistakes that's damaging people today. That's why you see professional footballs, right? Professional sports, not just football, but professional sports, everything is getting faster, quicker, more fine-tuned. So what they're doing is they're saying that the speed and the intensity at which athletes are training these days is creating higher forces on the body and causing them to injure. But I don't believe that. I don't believe that if you perform to your peak, you're more likely to get injured. I mean, you have to take the old sports people, they wore heavier footwear, they wore less aerodynamic clothing, their body was under more stress due to the surfaces that they competed on. So I would say that their bodies were actually put under more stress in those previous days. You know, you look at the marathon runners now, they're like running on clouds at the trainers that they run with. So even sprinters, they're running on soft tracks. Football players are running on completely flat surfaces. So there's no kind of movement in the ground or with the footwear that they wear restricting any of their movement. So why are they getting injured so much now? And I would say that it is basically the approach to looking after the athlete, the training, the stretching, the routines are all wrong. They're going against the natural human anatomy. And that brings us back to the anterior and posterior rotation of the pelvis. They're getting it wrong, you know. I mean, like I said, who decided? Who built? You show me one person on this planet that's alive today who built a sacrum and an ilia and stuck them together and said, yeah, this is the way they're supposed to move. No one. It's all an interpretation. Okay? And if you really want to know why shouldn't spines move, just have a look. The spinal joints. They're facet joints. They're flat surfaces stuck on top of each other. You put two flat surfaces together, right? They are not going to move. They're going to have a very much smaller range of movement compared to a ball and socket, which is going to move all over the place. And then the most mobile joint in the body is the shoulder joint, right? And the shoulder joint is literally, it's a half surface. So it's got so much free play in there, okay? But it's designed with that roundedness. And then you come across the spine, which are facet joints. They're flat. And then you'll go into therapists who are getting your back moving, making you twist and turn and side bend. And what's actually happening is you're damaging your bodies. You know, your joints, your limbs should be moving more than anything, okay? There's no way. You can even see it when people flex forward these days, okay? They always say it like a child will bend forward and they'll keep their back neutral. They'll bend their knees and go right down, and so they're flexing their hips, okay? I remember watching, and this is the funniest one I've ever seen. It was after the semi-final Wimbledon, I think it was a couple of years ago, and Djokovic kept bending down like this. And I just kept thinking, why is he bending with his spine? Why is he bending? Then he turns up for the final and he had a strapping on his hamstring because he had a hamstring injury. So I realized then, why is he bending like that? It wasn't right. You shouldn't be bending with your spine. You should be bending with your hips. And it turned out that he got beat, but he's in extremely high level physical fitness, so he would have carried himself to the end of the final, and he's incredibly talented. So he worked through that, but he did lose. And you have to ask yourself the question, if he was moving right, if his hamstring wasn't a problem, would he have lost that final? So, these things, and then the physios will come on and they'll rub his back. I remember watching Wimbledon. It must have been in 2009. And I remember Andy Murray was getting his back massaged. The physio come on, sticking a thumb into his back. Andy Murray's lying on the ground. And even since back then, I've always said, if you've got back pain, you've got to look at the hip first. And what happened? Andy Murray had a hip replacement or had some sort of hip surgery. So there's evidence there to show us that the current industry dealing with functional anatomy, movement anatomy, they've got it wrong. It's just sad to see. And I mean, you just look through my reviews and see what my clients say. Most of my clients are saying they've been to the other therapists. They've been to osteopaths, chiropractors, physios. They come in here, they tell me, I've got this back pain and someone's doing this and this and this. I don't touch their backs and they get better. And they write a review for me. And it's amazing because I never ask somebody to write a review for me after 1 or 2 sessions. I say, wait till you've had 4 or 5 sessions so that you've got a story to tell about your journey. So when you read the reviews that I have got, you will see the person has a journey of how they've been, how they got where they are, and how they're feeling after treatment with me. But it's kind of depressing to actually see how, you know, you look at the industry, you just think 200 years, there's been no change, no update. Grey's Anatomy, the holy grail of the anatomy, and then the functional anatomy. You know, they're saying when you look at Grey's Anatomy, all these other functional anatomy books, they're referencing Grey's Anatomy, but that hasn't been changed for over 200 years. And it's like, when are we going to start actually looking at the human body and saying, hey, wait a minute, we've got this wrong. We are doing things entirely wrong, which is why people are still getting injured. Well, thank you for joining me today. I'm going to cut that short. If you're interested, I do an exercise PT live session from 7:30 tonight. Join me doing a little exercise, a little workout with me, and I'll explain how you can build capillaries back into your muscles so that your muscles get younger and you get fitter and stronger. Take care.